Okay, hi guys. Welcome to today's conversation. And I just wanted to say that the intention of today's conversation is to hear about mastermind parenting from the male point of view. Okay, so I have Jed, I have Aaron, and I have Scott Rubenstein. I know many of my podcast listeners have been anxiously awaiting meeting Scott Rubenstein, the one and only Scott Rubenstein. So welcome, guys. Thanks for being here.
Good to be
Yeah,
here.
absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so the point I just said to you guys before we started recording, the point of this conversation is for new families that are coming into the mastermind and my moms who come to me and say exactly like each of your wives did, how do I get my husband on board? And, you know, you guys are it's interesting because you guys are different because both of you guys truly have a household where it is a co-parenting situation. Both you and your spouses work outside the home. And yet, when your wives came in, they were the ones listening and learning and getting familiar with this new conversation. And you guys weren't like bought in yet. Like, why do you think that is? Why do you think that like you didn't buy in from the get-go?
Jed, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah, I can start. Sure. Well, I mean, for me personally, it was, starting with the mastermind and you, Randy, it wasn't our first foray into seeking assistance with, you know, our parenting skills. And well, I mean, that was a big sale in of itself. To seek help. I mean, I think for men in general, it's hard. I mean, I think that coming from a household like mine, where dad disciplined when he came home after work. I don't think I know he wasn't reading parenting books and going and seeking help. So just getting over that hump was hard. But getting talked into coming and doing the mastermind course and doing the work. It was out of necessity, and I trust my wife a lot, and if she says this is different than the other experiences and the other help that we sought in the past, I took her for her word, but I was still skeptical at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly.
Yeah, no, I remember when she first came to me and she said she was working for corporate America at that time. She's now gone on to start her own business, but she, at her company, they had offered a parenting class at like, wasn't it like at 7:30 in the morning?
Oh yeah, yeah. Love and Logic, which had book work as well as had reading, as well as going and going to a conference room within her company's office building, which was really nice. I mean, it's great. I mean, if you've got anybody out there that knows what Love and Logic costs, it's not insignificant, and for a company to provide it for its employees, it's pretty special. But I mean, that's kind of what it felt like. It felt like a one size fits all kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And in that respect, I don't think that it was any different than some of the other programs that are out there, or books that you read that you just kind of try to apply to your own specific situation. And then there's a teacher in front of the class, but there were 30 other people in there with us. So not being able to drill down or even customize the program to your own situation at any given time is I'd say I didn't. It was disappointing.
Well, I think that's interesting because in Mastermind Parenting, like in the membership community, we have you know, a number of families as well. But I think what you're speaking to is that even though there's a bunch of people, it still feels like your specific needs are getting met, and like there's a lot of access to me and us problem solving your specific situation. So it's like whatever you've got going on, we're going to workshop it and we're going to apply the tools to it, but it's not just a one size fits all approach. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and so I don't know how you're chiming in over here. He's now lived with this and the evolution of this recipe, which a couple of years ago he asked me when he was having to share me with all of my business building ventures. He said, what's the point of this business? Do you remember when you said, like, what's the point? He was like, what's the point of it? I don't understand. And I said, we have a recipe here that I just feel like if we don't share it with other people, it feels selfish. And at that time, you were pretty good about being selfish, weren't you?
I can still be pretty selfish. Okay.
I mean, you were like, okay, well, and like, we've got a good thing going on here. But now that you've seen, like, it's affecting other families and other families are changing their dynamic in their household, like, don't you get it now?
Well, the part I get is, as far as it being relevant to this, is just that it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't work for just one parent to be bought in. It really is a team effort. And I learned that even before you started with your deal, when we took a parenting class together years ago. And it wasn't so much that the content was so amazing, it was just the fact that we both did it together and we were on the same page. And so I definitely recognize that if you're teaching it to one parent or the other, and the other parent's not on board, that it's not even half as effective as if both parents are doing it. Going back to when we took that parenting class, my choices were marriage counseling or a parenting class. So I chose the parenting class as a lesser of two evils, but it has been very effective in that regard. I'd say, like most new parents, we were struggling with just raising our first child and getting on the same page. And then, of course, Randy took it to a whole other level and learned a lot of other techniques that we've implemented in our family. But yeah, just very much was married. It served as marriage. It served to strengthen our marriage.
Okay, so Aaron, let's talk about you, because you guys were a perfect example of, y'all are very busy working couple. You're a lawyer, your wife's a dermatologist. She just started her own practice and she was about to drop out of the mastermind because she was like, you know, Aaron hasn't bought in yet. And frankly, I just can't do this all by myself. And so I recognized how busy you guys were. And so within the mastermind, sometimes I have some more kind of high touch, like one-on-one experiences. And I said, you know what, let me put you guys into a 12-week program where you will work directly with me. It'll be very high touch. And I didn't even know exactly what I was going to call the program. But once I started seeing you guys getting the results, I've named it Parenting on the Same Page. And now you've pretty much just completed, like I think we're at week 11 in that program. So like, what do you, and let me just say this for the listeners. I met with Aaron at the end of last week and he was like, let's talk about the call, which I'm so happy to do with you next week. But like, I don't have it all figured out yet. Like, like Aaron's like, basically like, am I supposed to get on and
be the expert?
Right. Like, am I supposed to get on and like act like we are the most perfect family in the whole world? We're doing everything exactly the way, like if Randy was a fly on the wall of our home, she would be like, yes, yes, and yes. So Aaron was a little concerned with like not having the perfectionism thing down. But I just would love to kind of hear from your perspective how this has impacted your family and your marriage and kind of where you're at with all that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, I think for me, I'll speak for myself. No parent wants to admit that
they can't handle it on their own, or they can't control their own home, and that their home is running smooth or the way it should be. And, the truth was our home was not running smooth. There was a lot of chaos and a lot of issues with our boys. And, we were both unhappy. And I think some of the resistance from me early was just maybe, partly or mostly ego saying, hey, we'll get this. I mean, it will turn around. We'll get it at some point. But that just wasn't the case. And we had issues and problems that we continued to encounter. And I think what Scott said's right on point. This is not a one person thing. It takes a team effort. And I saw the effect that it was having on our home and my wife and me. And it just got to the point, said, well, crap, it can't get any worse. I've got, just cost benefit analysis, got everything to gain, nothing to lose. Let's give it a shot. And so we tried it and we did it together, and we've been doing it together. And I'm no expert, and there are lots of issues that we continue to encounter. But what I found is that working together, and the recipe is there, and you can get your home in order, and you can get your kids in your home in a place where you want it to be. But it's going to take work. I mean, much like working out or dieting or whatever, it takes discipline and action and actually working together. So that's what's happening in our home, is we've kind of bought in, and I see that I've seen the effects. I've seen what we call wins, right? We'll get some wins. And when you get some of those wins, like getting your kids to bed on time and having that downtime together, then it's a wonderful thing, because it's good. It's good for the family. It's good for the relationship. And I truly believe that not only is our home improving, but the relationship with my wife is getting stronger and stronger. So that's been the biggest thing. It's a work in progress, but we're making that progress. And there's a plan.
I totally, like, they were headed, they had a call with me. We did it in the car, and they were heading out of town for the weekend, seeing a concert. I won't name the concert because I'll let you preserve your masculinity, Aaron. But let's just
appreciate that. I appreciate
it. Let's just say it was a concert that I was very jealous of, and it was 100% Aaron being a good husband. And like, you guys were in the car, you were heading out on a road trip, you had left the boys at home with your brother, who just, the uncle, the kidless uncle who had just moved to town. Like, you have to have your kids in a certain place to be able to leave town and leave them with the uncle. And y'all sounded light and happy, and like, it was such a high for me to hear you guys heading out of town, just like where you were. I loved it.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes back to working together, and we've seen progress. And we've had we've seen definite changes to our home.
Okay, so let me switch back to Jed real quick. How do you guys feel like this, learning the Mastermind method? How do you feel it has changed your kids?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure how it's a really great question. I think that, I don't think that it's changed our kids. I think that it's changed us. And, I think because it's changed us and changed the way that we parent, it's just made everything work better. They're still, I have a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and about to be 1-year-old. So I have to constantly remind myself that each one of these kids have different personalities, and not to lump each one into the same group. Because one of the things that I would say helped me with your program, and you can probably hear one screaming in the background right now, is that you kind of told us that you gave us the neurological definition of where these kids are. in their development. And I had never looked at that before, and that really helps to understand neurologically where your kid is in the development. Really helps, because it just gives you a frame of reference of what they understand and what they don't understand. And you know, the other thing that was really valuable is you gave us permission to fail. You know, all of the other programs, all of the other books, all of the super nanny that we hired for $300 an hour to come over and just talk with us after she observed our kids for 15 minutes, like we thought that was going to work. We did. We thought it was going to work, but they never gave us permission to fail, which we still fail. We still fail in the moment, at any given moment, because of the situation. But it's okay. We have the tools because we've learned the tools. But
you said the perfect thing. It's like, we're not changing our kids, we're changing us. Like, this is way more parent than parenting. But as a result, of course, your kids are going to have a different trajectory in life. And if Scott just goes, I don't think I get permission to fail. The truth of the matter is that it's like, there is no failing. It's just trying again and trying again and trying again.
Right.
And also accepting, like, we're humans. Being a human is messy business, and there is no perfection. Like I say, it's connection, not perfection. And so when you say there's no fail, like, when I look over at Scott, and I'm in this for 21 years, right? Like, we've been married 23 years. And so for 20 years, I've been researching, developing, studying, teaching, and I still will look over at least on a weekly basis, and
you're going to say daily.
Maybe daily. There is an iPad at my kitchen table with surfing on in the background when we have a clear no technology rule in our house at the kitchen table. And I'm not sitting there like reprimanding him. If once the kids come and somebody calls him out on it, or I'll give him a look, he'll put it away. But like, you fail all the time. I just don't point it out, and I don't have to make you wrong for choosing to continue to watch surfing not at the table, right? Like, it's not my job to be your parent. It's just my job to parent with you.
Yep.
So, okay, well, do you want to add anything?
I mean, the only thing I'd add to what Jen said is just that, I mean, I don't like to compare my kids to dogs, but it's a lot like dog training, in that you get the best version of your kids when you utilize some tools that Randy teaches, because at the end of the day, they're very teachable skills. It doesn't just come to you second nature. Parenting, there's, like I think Aaron was saying, or Jed was saying, yeah, it was Jed. My dad didn't have a parenting manual. He just kind of did what came naturally to him, and it helps to have some tools. They're teachable skills. It's just like, I always said that about baseball, that, baseball is a very teachable sport that, and the more practice you have, the better you get it. And I feel like parenting's the same way. You can try and just get out there and swing the bat and pitch, but if you're taught and you have somebody coaching you, you're going to be better at it, and your dogs will be better trained dogs.
And you can bond with your kids when you walk your dog. So let's just bring it all back together. And I think the other thing is now that we have teenage kids, we have 21-year-old, almost 18-year-old, and a 13-year-old. I will also say, which, Scott is good to have here because he puts it really in regular people language. Like, our kids, just the emotional intelligence.
Yeah, you just end up with the best version of your kids, because, I guess you just don't do as much damage to them.
They just, you know what? They just honestly, like, I mean, there's so many times every week where we were just out of town. We were just out of town for the weekend, and we had our two younger kids and some of their friends with us, and we were at a ranch. And like, there's just so many times where we look at each other and we like literally are shaking our head like kind, good human beings and fun to be with. Like, the more you do this work, the more enjoyable your kids are, and then the more you enjoy them. And so it's just like this cycle, it's like the dominoes fall and you just end up with enjoyable kids. And I think it also makes your family stronger because you're constantly looking at each other at the stage where we are, and it's not quite as much work. And you're saying, like, you're just in awe of these little people that are growing up into their own, their own people. And I think it's just a really fun thing to get to witness that.
Yeah, you get to reap the benefits later.
Well, raising humans, like raising really good, healthy people, it just feels good.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels good. If you had missed out on learning and being a part of this Mastermind Parenting tribe, like, how do you feel like your life would be different in the long run? Like, in the long run, how is your life going to be improved by learning Mastermind Parenting? Okay, Aaron, go.
Yeah, I would say the way I would answer that, Randy, is, the way that I had been doing it up to that point was getting the short-term fix, right? And using methods that weren't right. And they're not right because you see, even though you might get the result by yelling or doing something that you shouldn't do, um, it doesn't fix the problem. It's like a Band-Aid, right? And so it's all about the long term. I mean, this is why we're doing this, because of the long term. Scott just said you reap the benefits, but who doesn't want to have good kids? Who doesn't want to have kids that can go out and fly on their own? And as parents, isn't that our obligation to put them in a position of success? Right? They're kids. We want to do everything we can to have a steady home and a fruitful home and a home that thrives and is a loving home. And so that's the long term. That's what you try to aspire to do. And I think, if we had not been exposed to your mastermind and your techniques and your methods, we'd miss out on that because we would continue to just do the short-term fix and the Band-Aid. And that's, as we know, not the recipe for success. So I would say to anyone, if you're tired and of the same reoccurring issues and behavior, you have everything to gain and nothing to lose. And who wouldn't want to have a better relationship with their wife and a more loving and productive home? So that's the long term for me, and I'm sure these guys feel the same way.
Thanks, Aaron. Jed, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I echo 100% what Aaron said. What I would say is, if it happened so frequently to both me and Erica, we would get home, both being working professionals, we would get home with this idea of the way the evening was supposed to go. And it wouldn't go that way. And after the kids were to bed, we were exhausted from our day, but we were twice as exhausted from dealing with that chaos that just took place in the hour and a half or 2 hours between getting home and putting our kids to bed. And we still have an occasional evening like that, of course, but much more often than that, we have really good nights and good mornings. And for working parents that, on a weekly basis don't really only spend that amount of time with their kids, having the tools to make those times, which are so precious, more peaceful, makes all the difference in the world.
That's such a good point. Love that. Okay, we're ending on that note. You guys, thank you so much. I think this is going to help so many of the dads and the families and the moms kind of sell the dads on why this work is so important and why it truly will change your life and change your kid's life and change your marriage. I mean, I think there's so many marriages that end in divorce because of miscommunication, because of constant tension in the household and fighting over the kids and all of the things that I think Mastermind Parenting helps with. So I love having you all in the tribe, and I appreciate you guys spreading the word.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, guys, have
See
a
you
great rest
guys.
of your day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.